Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. and Jake Chipper here with you. And coming up, we have a Shams bomb that we want to talk about as the ESPN NBA Insider dropped some major trade buzz that we have to discuss here on the show. Before we begin, today's poll question and the pinned comment for today's 76ers Now. Scroll on down. Let us know what you're thinking about this. Will the Sixers and Daryl Morey make a trade this year? Type yes, type no. Most notably for Philadelphia, the player mentioned, the player who we're very intrigued by as a show and a collective unit, that is Chase Sr. and Jake Chipper. It's Pelicans forward Herb Jones. Could be on the move, and he's a perfect fit for Philadelphia. For a Pelicans team, not good. And they've suffered from a lot of injuries. Here's what Shams had to say about the state of the Pelicans, currently 5-20. Last place in the Western Conference. And now Brandon Ingram is out indefinitely with a significant low ankle sprain. Williamson, Zion, also remains sidelined indefinitely with a left hamstring strain suffered on November 6th. What's new with him? The Pelicans' 3 All-Stars, Ingram, Williamson, Murray, have yet to play together. Teams have already started expressing the Pelicans supporting cast players and interest in them, such as Herb Jones and CJ McCollum. So you thought it was bad for the Sixers. You thought that prior to that Chicago game, Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, and Paul George having played 6 minutes together was bad. The big three for the Pelicans has not played together at all this year. I know Joel Embiid's been hurt a lot. He still played more than Zion Williamson. And the Pelicans, 5-20, just having a season from hell, even more so than the season from hell for the Sixers. Herb Jones, really good player. Still young, very valuable. This is a playoff piece who can defend at a really high level. He's a very good athlete. In years prior, he's been a passable three-point shooter, but he can kind of do a little bit of everything. His career numbers up to this point, been in the league for 4 years. In 2021-2022, he really caught a lot of people by surprise with the immediate impact that he was able to have. 9.5 points, just under 4 rebounds, 47.5% from the field, just under 34% from 3. Following year, numbers almost identical all across the board. And then last year, career year for him, 11 points per, 3.5 rebounds, almost 50% from the floor, just under 42% from 3. You see those numbers this year. He's only played in 7 games, and while the field goal numbers are at a career high, almost 52%, he's at 29% from 3. I think a lot of that, him not playing a lot, not able to find a rhythm, but the supporting cast not being there around him. In 2023-2024, all-defensive team, first-team member. He was 5th in Defensive Player of the Year voting, and in his career, he has finished 8th, and 12th in steals per game. He's also extremely versatile, and Jay Billis would absolutely love this. He has a 7-foot wingspan. His contract, sign that extension, and this is a steal when he's playing his best hoops. $12.9 million in 2024-2025, $13.9 the following year, that's next year, and then $14.8 in 2026-2027. So we kind of put together this trade here. Would you do this? Sixers receive Herb Jones. Pelicans receive KJ Martin, Ricky Council, Eric Gordon. And look, they're 5-20. If they want to rebuild, here's that Clippers first. And you're not sure what that Clippers team is going to look like in 2028. It could end up being a very valuable pick. A player who I would love for the Philadelphia 76ers to trade for is Herb Jones. He's one of the top defensive players in the NBA, first-team defensive member last year. He has shown some improvements offensively each year that he's been in the NBA. When he is playing with a good supporting cast, he's capable of knocking down that three. He's a really versatile defender who can guard multiple positions, and I think Nick Nurse could find ways to really utilize him on the offensive end outside of being around the perimeter. Backdoor cuts, in that dunker spot and just a tenacious defender who could help the Sixers make up for the lack of size that they have right now at that wing spot. And you think about the landscape of the East, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Jalen Brunson. You have Donovan Mitchell with Cleveland. Those are some really good players on the best teams inside the Eastern Conference, and Herb Jones can help you lock those players down. So, Chip, Herb Jones, good potential Sixers trade target. Last week we talked on the show how the Sixers could go all in. They're not worried about keeping their picks. Why would they? They're going all in right now. And that's the type of player who's kind of in like that Dorian Finney-Smith type of territory who we were talking about last year. And now Herb Jones could help them this year.
Yeah, and if the Pelicans, amid this awful season they're having, just decide to go full reset mode, and Herb Jones is available, as Shams is reporting, teams are already reaching out. We don't know what teams yet, but teams are reaching out. The Sixers have to go get him, in my opinion. If they're serious and they start to, win some games, which they started doing already, and they want to compete for a title, and they're serious about winning a championship this year, Daryl Morey has to find a way to go get Herb Jones because he would complete this starting lineup perfectly. A starting five to me of Maxey, either McCain or Oubre, depending on matchups. You want the defense, you want the offense. I'd probably go McCain just because what he gives you offensively, but that's a different conversation. Then you have Paul George and Herb Jones, and then Joel Embiid. That is a scary starting five. And Herb Jones, obviously playing in New Orleans, a lot of people probably haven't watched him play a whole lot over the past 3 or so seasons. Look, it's hard to oversell what he is as a defender. He is truly, to make all defensive first team as a wing, top 5 defensive player of the year, he's a special talent on the defensive side of the ball. Can really guard 1 through 4, even some 5s at points because of his 7-foot wingspan. If he could just find that offensive groove he had last season and knock down, I don't need 40%. Give me 37, 38, just better than the 29 he's at right now.
Yep.
He is that perfect final piece at that price point. Because, again, the Sixers have that KJ Martin contract, don't have too much other money to attach, but they can get up to that about 13, 14 million he's making. Man, Herb Jones, I would be all in and so excited to watch this team play if Daryl Morey can get it done and go get Herb Jones.
A perfect Philadelphia type of player, too. He just plays so hard. He's so aggressive. Dude has no fear. In the playoffs, he's played really good ball defensively, knocking down some big-time shots. So would you make this trade? Herb Jones to the Sixers, KJ Martin, Ricky Council, Eric Gordon, and a first-round pick from the Clippers in 2028 to the Pels. A for accept, D for decline. Another poll question that we have for everybody, and we want you to answer that down in the comment section. Now, coming up next, more trade buzz from Shams Charania. He was just dropping some bombs as we sit here on this December 10th and looking ahead. NBA trade deadline not far away, coming up in early February. Our sponsor for today's 76ers now, our friends at Game Time. Holidays are coming up. If you want to gift something special to somebody who you care about, how about tickets to a Sixers game? How about tickets to an Eagles game? You can also go to a concert, comedy show, theater event. Shane Gillis is going on tour. Plenty of tickets available for him. Great technology and user interface on this app. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. You can also pay with Venmo, easily resell your tickets. They have flash deals and zone deals. I love how you can see the price point and the vantage point from your seats. For instance, if you're in the Philadelphia area or you're an Eagles fan, how about this matchup we have coming up on Sunday? Steelers, Eagles at the Link. You look down at Lincoln Financial Field, and you see all of the different price points and all of the different seats available. All types of different sports, all types of different events. You can see for yourself. Use that code CHATSPORTS. Download the app, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Terms apply. First purchase only. What time is it? Game time. What time is it here on this show? Time to get to some more trade buzz from Shams Charania, because earlier I had mentioned a player that we talked a little bit about last year and last offseason who we're going to bring back up because Shams mentioned him as well. And as an entire team, let's take a look at the Brooklyn Nets. You might get the hint right now. The Nets have received trade interest and open exploratory conversations around forwards Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith and guard Dennis Schroeder. Brooklyn has amassed significant cap and asset flexibility, an NBA high $60+ million in salary cap space next summer, and 12 first-round picks, 11 second-round picks eligible to trade to position the franchise for the future. After trading Mikal Bridges to the Knicks last summer, the Nets were looked at as a seller. They have clearly sold, and now they have some really good assets, but are they going to be able to lure a free agent to Brooklyn, looked at as the redheaded stepchild to the New York Knicks in the city of New York? Are they going to be able to be bad enough to get a really good pick in the draft? Either way, what they're doing right now, kind of that Sam Presti model, kind of like the Sam Hinkie model. Sam Presti didn't get vilified for it, nor are the Nets, but Sam Hinkie did, and he was bounced by the NBA. Whatever, anywho. As for Cam Johnson, really good shooter and an electrifying three-point just magician for what he's able to do beyond the arc. 18.8 points per game this year. He's connecting on 48.8% of his field goals steadily throughout his career. He's been a very reliable three-point shooter. As far as defense goes, he's 6'8", 210. Not a terrible defender, I wouldn't say, and categorize him as elite, but not bad. Dorian Finney-Smith is that all-around type of player, likes to sit in the corner, is a good corner three-point shooter, not really going to handle it a lot, played very well in the Mavericks Western Conference Finals run back a few years ago. He's been on a bad Nets team, and so a lot of people haven't realized how good he is. But on that Nets team, as part of that Kyrie Irving trade, 10.5 points, 4+ rebounds, an assist and a half. He'll block some shots. He'll poke his hand in there. He'll generate some steals. A glue guy type of player and a versatile defender. And then Dennis Schroeder doesn't fit what the Sixers need. If they need scoring, you have it in Jared McCain. You have it in a Reggie Jackson type. Schroeder, though, to his credit, having a really good year. 18.5 points per on just under 45% from the field. Doesn't give you a lot outside of that, but a shifty score. And if a team needs a veteran who has some playoff experience and some scoring punch, Schroeder could be of that variety. Chip, what do you make of those three players?
Yeah, clearly the Nets gonna blow it up here. Cam Johnson, I would love on this team. Unfortunately, just makes a little too much money for what the Sixers have, because again, you have to match salaries in the NBA, and at about $23 million, Sixers would have to give up both of Kelly Oubre, Caleb Martin, Andre Drummond, KJ Martin, just to get up to that salary. It's just not worth it, even though I think he fit perfectly on this team on top of first-round picks. That's why Dorian Finney-Smith, if you can't get Herb Jones on the roster, I think DFS fits just as well. Not quite, the all-defensive first-team player that Jones is, but still a very good defender. Can still do some things, catch and shoot. I think Herb Jones a little bit better with a ball in his hands, showing some skills there. DFS, not so much, but still, if they land Dorian Finney-Smith for KJ Martin and some salary, a player that could start for you easily, play tough defense, hit corner threes, I wouldn't even say he's a consolation prize. I'd say he's still a guy I'd want to go out and get.
Yep.
And if Brooklyn's selling, man, Daryl Morey, as we've said, get on those phones, get him in Philly, because another championship type of player who will have more value for a team like Philly than he does right now for a rebuilding and a tanking team like the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, and then elsewhere here, as far as the players who Shams had mentioned, the next one is a player who a lot of people are very familiar with. Now, not a Sixers target, but the Miami Heat could be moving off of one of their franchise icons in Jimmy Butler. And so the Sixers won't go after him, but if he's traded to an Eastern Conference contender, that'll shake up the East. Of note, the teams that he said he'd be willing to play for, not in the East. But here's what Shams had to say about Jimmy Butler. Sixers should have never let him go. Wonder where they'd be if they still had Jimmy Butler pushing Joel Embiid instead of wanting to bring back Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris over me? Here's Shams. The Heat are open to listening to offers for Butler and making a deal if the proposal is right. League sources told ESPN and Butler's agent Bernie Lee he has indicated in league circles that Butler is open to destinations such as two of the Texas teams, Houston Rockets and Dallas Mavericks, and the Golden State Warriors. Butler is a native of Houston, Texas, Houston, Texas. Tomball, Texas is where he's from. He is believed to prefer a win-now title contender in any trade. Teams have also been informed that Butler intends to opt out of his deal in the offseason and become a free agent. The Heat have hovered around the play-in tournament over the last 2 years, and with Butler's contractual status, they have been open-minded to trade inquiries. Chip, I was thinking about this a little bit earlier. I was like, what if the Sixers didn't pay for Paul George, and instead they kept that money and they just waited for something like this to happen? Could they have made it work with Jimmy Butler? Who would be the better player, Paul George or Jimmy Butler? Obviously, Philadelphia wanted to make the splash in free agency. That required them having money and not having to give up assets. I don't know if the Sixers have the assets or would have had the assets to give up for Jimmy Butler, but either way, him being on the move, obviously pretty interesting.
Yeah, it could be pretty important for the Sixers. If Miami does trade him, we'll see what happens. Obviously, that'd be huge move, biggest move of the deadline if he does go out somewhere out west. But look, that's another team that you're looking up at in the standings right now, and while they wouldn't be completely devoid of talent if they trade Jimmy, I think that's another team. All of a sudden, I'm not really worried about the Miami Heat. So if he does leave, that's obviously good for the Sixers. We know that the Miami Heat, despite how they do in the regular season, they're always a tough outcome postseason time. Yep. Sixers obviously played them in the play-in and beat them, but it was a very, very tough game. Always a physical team. So that'd be a big shift in this Eastern Conference. The West is already so much better than the East. Sending Jimmy to a team like Golden State, that's where I'd like to see him go. Play with Steph, play with Draymond. Sort of one last shot for that squad as they're all old. That'd be insane. But, man, Jimmy could be on the move again. Leaving Miami, look, I'm all for it. Go out west, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Wish you were still here, though.
Yeah, same. And we don't need you in the East because he loves sticking it to the Sixers. Although the Sixers did win that play-in tournament game, Butler got hurt in that game after Kelly Oubre clashed with them. All right, to another former Sixer, a process Sixer. Multiple teams have begun expressing interest in a group of Portland veterans. Jeremy Grant, that's the former Sixer right there. Anthony Simons and Robert Williams as the Trailblazers make decisions on their roster. Dame left, best player in franchise history, arguably. Although, again, that is an argument because Clyde Drexler was on that team. Bill Walton, RIP, back in the day, but his career cut short. But some players from Portland who could be moved. Jeremy Grant this year, 15 points per. He's really improved as a three-point shooter throughout his career. Anthony Simons is a young player who's very gifted scoring the basketball. Injuries have been an issue for him. And this year, he's only shooting 40% from the field. Robert Williams, very talented. I mean, he can touch the sky with his ability to block shots when he's right, but a lot of knee injuries throughout his career. And we are flashing those salary numbers down at the bottom of your screen as well. For Grant, 29.7, very high. Simons, 25.8, and then Williams at 12.4. Any of those players interest you?
Jeremy Grant was a player I used to want back on the Sixers, but he got paid a ton of money, and he really hasn't been very effective this year at all. Not shooting the ball well. Anthony Simons, very similar to Tyrese Maxey, but, a step below that. He's pretty inefficient. He has nothing on defense. Robert Williams is the only guy I'd be like, if the Sixers really don't like what they're getting from Drummond, and he doesn't cost too much because, again, only making $12 million, does have the injury concerns.
Drummond's
I would
been
like
better
him.
of late.
Would like him as a backup center on this team. I mean, he's a great defender. He'll rebound the ball. That's what the Sixers need. But, yeah, as you mentioned, Drummond has been better as of late, so that's really the only one. I don't see Grant or Simons being true targets. But again, as these trade markets start to heat up and these trade talks start to heat up, like a player like Grant or Simons being moved possibly to a team in the East could change things up. We'll see how aggressive the Sixers are, but I think they have to make a move. I think they will make a move, and hopefully it's for Herb Jones, as we talked about at the top of the show. But, of course, a lot of other options, a lot of teams that are selling, teams that are buying. Sixers, I imagine, will be one of those teams that are buying come trade deadline time.
Herb Jones, Dorian Finney-Smith, players of that ilk, probably the best fits, in my opinion at least, for Philadelphia. Before we hop on out of here, stay in the know, hit that subscribe button. As you can see, less than 500 people away from 21,000 subs.